What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Magnetik here, and I got another tutorial for you, another mixing tutorial. So today I'm going to talk about how I've been mixing vocals recently. I don't know if this is a new technique or whatever, but yeah, this has really been working out good to get the vocals to cut through and really shine in the track, okay? So this is a track that I got coming out in April. Well, if this is after April, then it's already out. So this is coming out April 12th, 2019. So the song's called Forever. And yeah, come listen to the vocals, and then I'll break down what I did.
When I see your face, lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe, I'll lead the way. When I see your face, lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe, I'll lead the way. We're moving together, much faster, forever. We're moving together, much faster, forever.
So you get the point there. So the thing that I did with this, obviously I got some auto-tune on it, okay? The first thing you want to do, well, it's not necessarily, some people do it first. I don't always do it first because sometimes the vocals don't need it. I was going to talk about having, this right here is the Waves Siblings plugin. This is basically a de-esser. So I always have it first in the chain, but I never put it in first. Because sometimes, you know, you do a vocal and maybe there's no S's or you just don't need to de-ess it. So I don't assume that I need it. I only put it in if I actually need it. I needed it, so I'll put it in there. But it's usually like one of the last things I do. So first thing I do is I always compress the vocal first. Some people, they like to compress after they EQ. They EQ into compression. I personally compress the vocal every time before I EQ it. I guess that makes sense if like if you got a track or if you got a vocal that was recorded in the studio that already put compression on it as you were recording it, like recorded into the compression, then I guess it makes sense to EQ first because there's already compression added to it. But these vocals I recorded straight into my Focusrite, so there's no compression going into it. So the first thing I do is add compression. And for vocals, one of my favorite compressors is the CLA 76. And I always have the fastest release. I have it usually around 3. And then I just have it going until, until I hear enough compression. So let's just play it before and after.
Lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe, I'll lead the way. When I see your face.
So you see, when I put it through the compressor, it really, well, for one thing, it's louder. And you can actually hear pretty much everything. Like that alone almost makes it sound perfect. It almost is done. Like shit sounds great like that. But I like the blue setting versus the black setting because it adds a little bit of high-end clarity to it that the black one doesn't. Although the black one is dope. I use black on trumpet a lot of times. But I use the blue on vocals most of the time. And then the next thing I do is I have the SSL channel strip. This has been my new favorite baby for drums, and I use it on vocals a lot. Sometimes I don't use this one on vocals. Sometimes I use sometimes I use a what's that thing called? The Neve one, a Neve 1073 or something like that. But on this vocal, I used this and it sounded cool. So what I did was at 8K, I boosted 6 dB. At 6.3K, I boosted 6 dB. At what's that? 500 hertz, I took out a little bit of that. I took about 4 dB at 500 hertz, and then that was then I cut out. I put a high pass filter up to 166 hertz to get rid of the low rumble. And let's hear that before and after. So before first, and then I'll keep flipping it back and forth.
When I see your face, lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe, I'll lead the way. When I see your face, lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe.
Now right there, that sounds really clear. You get that high end shine going in there. It's cutting through. I get rid of a lot of the low end. All the way up to 166 hertz, I cut up pretty high. So it sounds a little bit thin for a man's voice. Probably for a female's voice, it will probably be fine. But for a man's voice, which is my voice, it's not enough low end on it. And with the compression, it's not like smashing it, so it's not consistent enough for me to really stand out in the mix. So what my thought process is, it needs some distortion, it needs some analog flavor to it, so it'll really stand out. So the way I usually do that is with parallel processing. Okay, so I use parallel distortion, or this parallel distortion. So Ableton, the dope thing is you can do parallel distortion or parallel anything inside of the same track. So this right here is a rack. So all you got to do is make a rack, and like on one, you have one channel right here. This is the original vocal where I don't have it on anything on there. And right here I call it smash. This is my parallel track. So what I did on the parallel track is I took a limiter. This is with L2, which is honestly, you could use any limiter. I just use this particular one because it's low on the CPU load, and it works really well. So I just use that. If it was something else that used even less CPU, I probably would use that. So it's not important which one, not necessarily. Then I also run that through a decapitator. Let me get this out of here. So the decapitator adds distortion. This really evens out the vocal before it goes into distortion, so I don't have any high peaks of distortion. And then after that, it goes into distortion, so it's even distortion on all of it. And what this distortion does, it adds bottom end so that I can sneak it back in and get that low end that I was missing before and keep it really consistent. So let's see what it sounds like. Actually, let's just hear what that actually sounds like.
When I see your face, lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe, I'll lead the way. When I see your face, lights up my day.
So you can see that right there is just not really, that don't sound good at all, right? But when you sneak it back in, let's see, I was down to like 14. When you put it back in, it adds all the pieces that was missing from the original vocal. So I'm gonna turn that on and off, and you'll hear what it sounds like. So first off and then on.
When I see your face, lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe, I'll lead the way. When I see your face, lights up my day. Hold on tight, babe.
So if you notice right there, when you flick it on and off, it gets a little, just a tad bit louder, just a little bit. But one of the great things is that it adds that bottom end back, and it has a certain presence to it that the vocal didn't have before I put that distortion in there. So outside of that, I got this other de-esser on the end, which I just automate. Let's see here. I automated it because I needed to get rid of this one thing right here. If you look.
Much faster, much faster.
You know, just get rid of that. But that's not doing anything other than that. So that right there is how I mix in vocals. And that's how I mix vocals that cut through mixes. Dense mixes. Alright? So if you liked the video, make sure you click the subscribe button below and hit the notifications bell. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.